So Dr. Şahin, we must first start by recognizing the incredible contribution you and your wife and the team at BioNTech and your partner Pfizer have made on the world in the past year. The speed which you drove life-saving innovation is remarkable. The world, including myself, owe you a debt of gratitude in a time where we're all worried about pandemics. And I would really appreciate all the things you have done. So I want to just kind of go back. How was your journey like? Because clearly it wasn't something you're working on 10 years ago. It all happened, I think, last 15 months. I would like to hear your perspective of how you got involved and what the process has been.
Thank you so much for the kind words, young son. It was incredible 15 months now. And our journey started in January 2020. So we started the year 2020 with all of our plans. Our biotech company is focused on the development of cancer immunotherapies. We are using a number of cutting-edge technologies, including messenger RNA. And our aim for 2020 was to bring a number of products into phase 2 clinical trial testing and proceed with our cancer trial. And then this outbreak in Wuhan happened, and on end of January and on the weekend, I was reading a paper describing the outbreak in Wuhan. And you know, this type of outbreaks happen every 3 to 4 years somewhere in the world, and I was not concerned when I heard that the first time. But after reading this paper, it was a Lancet paper. The description of the cases and the whole scenario made clear that this is a new, not only a local outbreak, but this outbreak has the full pattern to become a global pandemic. So the infection was with a new virus, with a sensitive human population, severe disease, human to human transmission, and the last and most important aspect was that infected people could travel without having symptoms, which makes it extremely difficult to control such an outbreak. And since Wuhan is one of the Chinese mega cities, well connected with international airports, I did some calculations and came up with an understanding that the virus has already spread globally and we are going to run into a pandemic. So understanding that, the next question was, of course, what should we do? How can we react? And we knew that we have a technology, a messenger RNA vaccine technology, which was developed for cancer. Yeah, we had also some experience in infectious disease, but the platform allows to develop vaccines with an incredible speed. Yeah, so I did some calculations and understood that our company, if it would engage itself, could become one of the first companies being able to deliver a vaccine. And once understanding that it felt like an obligation to start a project, yeah, and so we decided end of January to engage ourselves, to pivot the company from cancer research to develop a vaccine against a new pathogen, yeah, without knowing and without understanding if the pathogen itself is amenable to vaccine development. But it was important to engage ourselves.
That is an incredible journey. I love your word, pivot. Pivot is used a lot in technology companies. Be able to switch on a dime, be able to change the direction, be able to change the focus. And clearly, you saw potential danger and potential opportunity on the technology you were working on. I think you've been working on a very long time, mRNA-based treatment. And I guess often it was a new technology, and the fact that you had the confidence that you can pivot and work on this new major outbreak is a very interesting decision. Did you have a high probability that you think it's going to work, or what was the chance at the time that you decided to pivot?
Yeah, so we are immunologists. I'm immune engineer. We knew from our mRNA vaccine approach that we could get very strong immune responses. Actually, we had published a number of breakthrough papers showing that our vaccine technology is able to induce extremely strong immune responses, T-cell responses, also antibody responses. So we had confidence in our technology. And in our company, we have a special type of cancer vaccine, the personalized cancer vaccine. And for the personalized cancer vaccine, essentially, the way how it works is we get a tumor from an individual patient, we analyze the tumor, we sequence the tumor, and then we make a personal vaccine tailored to the genetic sequence of the tumor. So this is a real-time process. And in the years before we encountered this challenge, we were able to reduce the whole process from genetic sequence to deliver a vaccine to 4 weeks. So we had and now the ability to, regardless what kind of sequence we have, to deliver a vaccine within 4 weeks. And we knew that our technology is able to induce strong immune responses. So these are the two key information pieces which gave us the confidence. What we did not know is if the virus itself is amenable for vaccine protection. You know, there are diseases like HIV, or hepatitis C, for which vaccines never worked, even though the whole mankind tried to make vaccines for more than 30 years. So we did not know when we started our project whether this new pathogen would be amenable for successful vaccine development.
Very interesting. So when you're pivoting, you had some fundamental technologies based on mRNA in the cancer therapy, but you didn't know how it's going to work out. But it was a journey because we are going through a huge pandemic and you're putting your resource. Tell me about your partnership.
It's the time to bring innovation from different fields together. And AI is for us an important scientific and innovation pillar. And what we indeed do is to connect biology, the biological challenges, with the technologies and competence spectrum of digitalization and AI.
Clearly, you decide have a partnership. You decide work with someone like Pfizer. So tell me about, it's not easy for a small company to work with a giant. So tell me about that navigation, what you learned from it, what kind of collaboration you had to accelerate the scale up that are required.
Yeah, so we started our project in January, and in March we had already about 20 candidates, and we had a clear plan for clinical development, with starting clinical trial in Germany. So to evaluate these vaccines. And what was also clear for us is that the clinical trials that we are doing in Germany and maybe in Europe would not be sufficient for getting an approved vaccine. So you require a large clinical trial with more than 30,000 participants. So for us, it was important to identify a partner who can help us to do this large clinical trial. We of course knew that it's our technology, it is our vaccine, our candidates, but we need a partner who brings in complementary skills. And for us, the colleagues from Pfizer were a natural choice because we had already a collaboration with the team of Pfizer. We had a project aiming to develop an influenza vaccine. The plan was to start with clinical candidates for influenza vaccines in end of 2020. So we contacted the colleagues at Pfizer and said, "Hey, we have candidates. We have a full commitment to develop a vaccine against COVID-19. Yeah? Would you like to join us, and would you like to support us? And after some conversation, we agreed to work together. And I clearly stated our requirements as that this is our technology. This is our vaccine approach, and I don't see that as a typical collaboration of big pharma and small biotech, where big pharma decides everything, is the pacemaker, or even this slowing down the project. But we need the only thing that we would request is to be as fast as possible, and that all kinds of decision making is based on science and based on mutual agreement. Yeah? And so we agreed on a 50-50 collaboration. So that means both partners shared the cost, yeah, and both partners had the same rights. And we agreed on full transparency. So we transferred our manufacturing process because our team had established over the decade not only the technology but also the manufacturing process for enabling to scale up the vaccine. We transferred that to the colleagues at Pfizer and started to in parallel to do the clinical development. So we continued our clinical trial in Germany. Pfizer started clinical trials in the United States, and we were able to accelerate together, yeah, and start the phase 3 clinical trial already in July.
Basically, 11 months, you introduced vaccines that are being deployed from beginning to end, which is an incredible time period that did not happen in the past. What are some of the challenges that you experienced? Because you have to go from 0 to billions in very short time.
Yes, and this is really based on a decade-long research which happened before. Yeah, so for our oncology products, we had already planned to establish new processes which would allow us to scale up our production. So in 2019, we had a production scale for our vaccines in the range of 10,000 per year. Yeah, but the team had already developed technology that would allow us to go at least for 1 million per year. Yeah, and the change of the technology for scaling up was luckily so robust that we could use this technology. Yeah. To not only to scale up to 1 million, but to 1 billion. Yeah. So that means the foundation for scaling up was already was already set, and we could, just by using larger bioreactors without changing the process, yeah, we could end up with a much higher yield. So mRNA is really also a micro world. You don't need to have cells, yeah. You just need the molecules. You produce nanoparticles. The size of these nanoparticles are around 60 to 90 nanometers, yeah. And you don't need cells. So that means you can really use the full space in the in a nanometer way. Yeah. So that means with about 30 kilogram of mRNA, yeah, which is not much, you can deliver 1 billion doses. Yeah. Wow. That's the power in the technology. So you don't need to scale and get huge factories. Yeah. You intensify the concentration. Yeah. And keep everything small. And this is really based on technology, on engineering, and on the robustness of the biology.
Very exciting. I mean, what I'm hearing is it's not only solving this particular pandemic issue, but fundamentally you have a technology platform that can help us to enable and scale and solving many other diseases that can be able to address much more scalable way than in the past. Let me go back to the vaccine topic. The mutation of COVID-19 virus poses a serious challenge to public health and vaccine developers globally. So your work seems to be far from done. In other words, it looks like if it mutates, what are some of the challenges in terms of further vaccine research, production, and development that you have to figure out how to manage going forward?
Yeah, so we knew from the very beginning that the virus will not stay stable. The viruses, it is normal that viruses mutate, and this virus is mutating, but it is not mutating at a concerning dimension. So there are viruses which have much higher mutation rate, like HIV, like hepatitis C. Yeah, this virus is more stable. Yeah, and the mutations could provide an escape from the immune response. So a mutation, so a virus could mutate so that the immune cells induced and the immune antibodies induced by a vaccine could not anymore bind or recognize the virus. Yeah, but we knew that, and in our vaccine we installed different layers of protection. Yeah, and this is the antibody layer. This is the so-called common layer. So that means if someone gets a vaccine, yeah, then he's inducing, the immune system is inducing antibodies, and regardless whether you get the vaccine or your wife or someone else, we as humans produce very similar antibodies. So that means the antibodies can be compared between individuals. Yeah, and therefore for a virus, there is a way to escape because everyone uses the same alarm system. Yeah, and the virus can find ways to escape from the antibody response. We had also a second layer. Yeah, and this is the T cell layer. This is the type of immune cells which are able to recognize the virus infected cells and kill them. Yeah, and so that the virus cannot hide. And if you get our vaccine, yeah, then you will get completely different T cells than your wife. Yeah, so that means the system that we are using here as a second layer is individual protection. And that makes it really difficult for a virus to escape. Yeah. So therefore, we are very confident that our vaccine will protect against different variants. We have tested so far more than 30 variants and see that we have still almost complete protection, with exceptions of a few variants. But even though these variants have a lower recognition, they still have a high recognition by the immune system. So far, we don't have any evidence that we have to change the vaccine. But if we would need to change the vaccine, again, the mRNA technology provides one fundamental advantage. You can change the vaccine in Lightspeed. So that means you just take the new sequence of the new virus, put it into your cassette, and use that to produce the vaccine. And that can be done in about 3 months. So that if a variant would emerge where we would say, okay, we now need really an update, we could bring this update in about 3 months.
So it is like an escape game, right? The virus is trying to figure out how to get around the immune system, and our B cell, our T cell is all reacting, and then they'll try to figure out how to survive. And since we all are different, there is maybe some room for that mutation is happening, but you feel pretty good that the mutation rate is reasonable compared to HIV virus and others, and therefore it's more stable. And even if it mutates and changes, you feel that because of a technology platform, which is mRNA-based, you can be able to look at the sequence and modify it and then be able to reapply it to our body.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So it sounds like a IT guy is understanding what you're telling me. That's the good news.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me about your other project, because clearly your primary mission was immunotherapies for cancer and other disease. You probably have to redirect many of your resources for pandemic issues that we are all going through. That happens, I guess, last time major pandemic was maybe 1918, so it makes sense to all of us have to apply. But are you still working on your prior BioNTech's immunotherapy focus, and where are you on that?
Yeah, sure. So our company, BioNTech, the name BioNTech is more or less a semi-acronym for biopharmaceutical new technologies. So our company does not only have messenger RNA, but also other technologies which should provide fitness for the 21st century. So we have gene therapeutic platform, gene editing platforms, and we have all kinds of immune modulators, and we have at the moment 15 clinical trials with 14 clinical candidates. Some of them are in phase 2, many of them are in phase 1. And even during the pandemic, we were able to continue and bring new molecules into clinical testing. So we have, for example, messenger RNA encoded antibodies. So antibodies are usually based on proteins, and there is a big industry developing protein-based antibodies, which are great. Yeah, but with mRNA encoded antibodies, you can do other things. You can, for example, overcome the limitation that some antibodies have a relatively short half-life if infused to patients. So you can deliver antibodies to the mRNA encoded antibodies to certain organs. We are using mRNA to deliver not only vaccines but also cytokines. So they are in cancer immunology. There are 30 years of research of certain cytokines, for example, IL-2, yeah, and the first generation of these molecules failed because of inappropriate behavior, pharmacokinetic behavior. So we now see the renaissance with molecules which have a better pharmacokinetics, are more stable in our body. And what we do is we use mRNA to deliver such molecules. And even though these molecules have a short half-life, because our mRNA allows a continuous production, manufacturing of these molecules by human body cells, we can get better pharmacokinetics. So these are clinical trials that we are doing and continuing and accelerate.
Great. Well, wishing you also best on that development. Now, when you were working during the pandemic, I'm assuming your team, I know you are in Germany, Mainz, but also you had other teams around. How did you collaborate, and how do you make sure you don't lose speed? Because as a leadership team, we always think about a time like this, you don't see each other as much, but yet you have to share, you have to collaborate. And I know the cloud technology and mobility and Zoom, things like that is helping. But I'd love to get your perspective of how you are working with your team to make sure you can have a clear mission and fighting a very important disease and sharing information to accelerate innovation.
The pandemic and also the need to do this project in Lightspeed, yeah, really forced us to come with new ways in doing projects and project management. So the first thing what we did is we of course took care that the people working in the labs, yeah, could work with social distancing. Yeah. So normally the lab time is from 8 to 5. Yeah. And what we enabled is, and from Monday to Friday, and we enabled that working is possible 24 hours. Yeah. So we implemented shifts. Yeah. And we also implemented that people could work on the weekend. So we had this 24/7 implemented. And this is something completely new for research. You do that normally for manufacturing, but we did that for research. Yeah? And we had the opportunity by collaborating with the colleagues at Pfizer, who have 6 hours shift, yeah, in the United States, and with the colleagues at Sohn, yeah, who have 8 hours shift, yeah, that we could really ensure that the project as a 24/7 global approach. We implemented parallelization. Usually you do projects with decisions sequentially. You first wait until you have candidates, then you decide for producing for clinical studies, and then you decide for manufacturing for the market. We just condensed the development and did, instead of doing things sequentially, we started to do things in parallel. Yeah. So we said, if it's successful, yeah, then we would have already a benefit from starting things earlier. And decision making was prepared. So that means we completely knew this data set will come in on Tuesday at 4 p.m. Yeah. And we set up a meeting for Tuesday, 4 p.m. Yeah. So that we could really take the fresh data set, make the decision, and just continue 30 minutes later with the next experiments. Yeah. And we implemented a number of meeting series. So we had expert meetings, with Zoom, yeah, and they had their meetings, and they had a central project management, which was the joint steering committee, yeah, which met several times a week, yeah, where we got the information from the satellite team, yeah, make decision and provided new guidance back to the satellite team. So it was adapting some of the project management tools from the software industry, for example, Agile project management, yeah. But combining that with working in a completely different industry using the same tools.
Yeah, listening to you, clearly Agile, if I'm hearing some of my IT team talking about their software crash development on the Agile process. And as you know, IT group is already 24/7, mainly because we have teams around the globe, and so it sounds like 24/7 commitment, which is a change for researchers, and using global teams, and having the basically Agile management process to take what makes works and keep moving to the next project. That's really interesting. And of course, we owe to you and your team to do that, to deliver such a fantastic solution that people did not expect. And obviously, I was very happy when I got my shots, and I'm glad it was also BioNTech shots as well.
Yang-Sen, I really believe that what this project showed us is that speed is not reducing quality, and that speed does not mean that you cut corners.
So tell me, changing the subject to your being an entrepreneur, right? Because you're not just a scientist, you're an entrepreneur because you build a company. What inspired you to become start a company and build a company like you have done? And obviously what you're doing is great. I'm glad you did it. But many entrepreneurs, many scientists, particularly in Europe, sometimes the risk-taking is scary and people tend to shy away from it. But clearly you didn't. You took the risk, you built a company, and then here where you are. So maybe what advice do you give to entrepreneurs, and what motivates you to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, it's a number of factors. The first factor is I'm a physician, I'm a doctor, and I care to help patients. So we started our company. My wife has the same motivation. We started our company as physicians, to enable that we can bring science to patients, and not only for clinical trials, but really develop products from which people could benefit. So this is the desire to help. The second aspect is really the fundamental understanding that if you would apply new principles, you could really change the way how patients are treated. So we are driven by the idea that many diseases are highly individual, and therefore require personalized, individualized treatment in a tailored fashion. And this is not established in our industry. So the industry is making one drug and applying it to the same drug to many patients. And we wanted to develop drugs which are tailored to individual patients, because that's the only way to tailor it. If every disease is different, if every patient is different, the only way to deal with that. And we combine this principle must be combined with technological solutions. So mRNA is a wonderful solution because it allows you to do just in time a tailored drug. And the third aspect is I love really also technology. I'm broadly interested in IT, in all kinds of science, in physics, in mathematics, and it is just fun if you deal with a scientific challenge, biological challenge, and you work together with excellent colleagues and try to figure out things. Then this is fun. Of course, everything can be done in an academic environment, but not drug development. So we tried to do that in collaboration with pharma companies and realized that this not work, and then decided to start our own companies just to bring this innovation to people.
That's great. So your care for your patients, your confidence that you can provide personalized solution, and your interest in innovation, putting it all together is what the BioNTech is, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Well, I really thank you for your time today. Really appreciate the interview that can share your ideas and your background and the impact that you're having. But I'm just so happy to hear the biology and technology can come together much closer, so that maybe we can accelerate innovation that we need.
Absolutely. It must come together.
All right. Thank you very much.